Well, for more on the U.S. economy, let's bring in John Quelch. He's Dean of the University of Miami's Herbert Business School. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Rachelle.
So first, talk about the key takeaways from the GDP report and what we should really read into this.
Well, the U.S. economy is 70% dependent upon consumption, and the stimulus packages that the Biden administration has put forward have, of course, played into this GDP result this quarter, with consumer spending up 11%, for example. As you said in the opener, the size of the U.S. economy is now at $19.1 trillion based on the current quarter's result, and that's just a shade behind the $19.3 billion that the economy was sized at in the last quarter of 2019. So all in all, this is a vindication to some degree of the enormous stimulus package, and it's also a vindication of the and a response to confidence generated by the speed of the vaccine rollout by the Biden administration.
And this is certainly a strong top-line number, but we also know that Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell had warned on Wednesday that the recovery so far is uneven and incomplete. What are your thoughts on that and other potential challenges to a full rebound?
Well, there are certainly sectors of the economy that are still underwater, and mainly in the services area, consumer services, obviously reflecting the hospitality industry, for example, and other consumer-facing industries that have been really decimated by the impact of the virus. So in certain sectors, in certain geographical regions, there is still significant unemployment. Certainly above pre-pandemic levels. But overall, this is a good news day for the Biden administration and for the U.S. economy. We expect maybe a couple of additional quarters of very strong growth before the economy settles back into a state of normal progression by the end of the year in the fourth quarter.
Now, of course, on Wednesday night, we watched Biden's first address to a joint session of Congress. Talk about the key economic policy highlights of that speech.
Well, of course, as you know, the initial effort was to prop up the economy quickly by getting stimulus checks into the hands of consumers and households around the nation. The second stage of the economic stimulus program is really to focus on infrastructure. And there is an enormous infrastructure deficit in the United States, both physical infrastructure, but I think also in terms of the connectivity of the United States. We have tremendous opportunities to invest in that as well, to further digitize the economy, and I think that that's what the president is going for in this very, very substantial infrastructure spending bill.
And obviously a lot of people wondering who is essentially going to end up footing the bill for a lot of this. We saw obviously a lot for infrastructure and for education as well. Looking at early estimates, do we have an idea of how they plan on paying for all of this?
Well, of course, there is talk around the changes in the corporate tax rate and the individual tax rate for folks earning more than $400,000 a year, but the impact of that will be relatively small in comparison with the very substantial stimulus spend. Now, there are some economists, notably Professor Summers at Harvard University, who have expressed strong reservations about the size of the stimulus and the notion that it will lead to significant price inflation. But that has to be offset by the recognition that many businesses have downsized and become much more efficient and productive during the COVID crisis, and as a result, they are more nimble and stronger as economic machines than they were beforehand. And so the productivity improvements that will come from a quick rebound and from the downsizing that the stimulus caused, those may offset significantly from a growth point of view the negative consequences of the very, very unexpectedly high deficit spending.